This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, looks like we're at 6 o'clock. So we'll open this meeting. This is a special meeting of the Planning Commission, Tuesday, August 24th, 2021. Could I get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Grant? Commissioner Meyerhoffen? You're muted, sir.
I'm sorry?
Commissioner Meyerhoffen is muted. Commissioner Nindell?
Present.
Vice Chair Duffel?
Present.
Chairman Griffith?
Present. Okay, we have at least 3. I guess at this time, I was going to ask Commissioner Grant, but I asked Vice Chair Duffel if he wouldn't mind doing me the favor of the Pledge of Allegiance tonight.
Certainly, if you'd all please mute your microphones and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This time I'll take motion to approve agenda.
Motion to approve. Vice Chair Duffel.
I'll second that.
A motion, a second, roll call vote.
Commissioner Meyerhoffen?
Aye.
Commissioner Nindell?
Aye.
Vice Chair Duffel?
Aye.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, and first up.
I'm coming on. I think this is it.
Really quickly, Commissioner Grant is attempting to get on. I just want to let you know, there she is.
Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Give me 1 second. I will be with you, or go ahead and start.
Okay, at this time, we'll move on to Planning Commission meeting minutes from the July 13th meeting. Can I get a motion to approve or correct?
I commit your motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyerhoffen. Do I get a second?
Commissioner Duffel, I will second.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Grant?
Aye.
Commissioner Meyerhoffen?
Aye.
Commissioner Nindell?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duffel?
Aye.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. This time we will open up to public comments. Pursuant to the Brown Act, any person may comment on matters of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission not listed on the agenda. Do we have any public comment speakers tonight?
We did not last I checked. Let me double check. There is a new attendee. Russell Betts would like to speak during general public comments.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Betts.
All right, my apologies. I raised the hand feature trying to see if I would be seen, and then all of a sudden it had me join as a panelist, so everything's okay. So, hello everybody, and that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
No more general comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so at this time, we will get into our public hearings. Our first hearing is for TE 21-8 and TE 21-10, request for a one-year extension of time for CUP 13-17 and a three-year extension of time for TPM 37322 and TTM 37331. Can we get a
Chair?
staff report?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Is it possible? I wanted to ask this, if I could make a motion to rearrange our agenda just to prioritize in the interest of time. Just 2 items, if you would mind me hearing that.
I mean, we did approve the agenda, but I don't have a problem with it. Does anybody else have a problem with it? See an issue with that? Commissioner Grant, what items are you looking to rearrange?
I would like to move the veterans up to the front along with the ADU.
So you want to, okay. You want to make number 4 first, followed by number 5, and then go back to number 2?
Yes, Chair, and for the interest of the commission and the community. If all applicants are here and available at this time. Only if they're here.
I don't see any issues with that. Does anybody else have any objections?
I would say the 2 applicants for the veterans know we were going third. I know they're in attendance, so they're under the assumption we're going third with that one. I just want to make sure that they're here to speak when the time comes.
Okay. Do we know if they're on? Because they would end up being the first one, so.
They are not logged on at this time.
Okay. How about for the, then why don't we at least do this much? Let us go on to, number 5, an ordinance of the City Council, Desert Hot Springs, California, amending sections 170.08.170, accessory dwelling unit 17.08.175, junior accessory dwelling unit, and amending land use table 17.08.01 related to parking for emergency shelters to harmonize with recent state law, and we will at least get through that one. How's that? Okay. Okay, can I get a staff report on this so that everyone knows exactly what we're doing here?
Mr. Chair, I believe we need to take a new motion to rearrange the agenda, would we not?
That can be done by general consent if it's the consensus of the commission.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
And from what I'm gathering, it's the consensus pretty much of the commission. Anybody opposed to taking this item? Okay. Mr. Chair, with that, I am prepared for a staff report. Should the commission so desire?
I would like that.
Okay, so this is pretty much a cleanup ordinance. As you know, we're going through the process of I think it's a 6th cycle for the housing element. And in doing so, we've been working with HCD and frankly on various items. And HCD, one of their people looked at our ordinance, and I was very happy actually that they only kind of found a couple little cooties in it to harmonize with state law. As the commission knows, the state housing law changes very quickly, very rapidly. They've made several changes in the past few years. And the 2 changes that are before the commission, technically it's 3 because we're also updating the land use table, but basically for the accessory dwelling units, which is in section 17.08.170D10, it currently states that the attached accessory dwelling unit shall be located in a fashion so that is concealed from public view. And HCD had pointed out that the proposed ordinance needs to clarify that that section cannot be applied if it prevents the construction of the ADU. So we added some limiting language to the proposed ordinance that says, if so feasible. The other portion is for the junior accessory dwelling units, which is section 17.08.175C1E, currently provides that the junior accessory dwelling units must have a shared entry with the main proposed or existing single-family residence. HCD questioned this as to kind of why we did this, and actually I went back and forth a little bit with planning staff, and we kind of deemed, and so hence we're here at the Planning Commission level, that this language really isn't needed at this time. We really couldn't think of something as to why that was needed. So because it was questioned by HCD, we went ahead and removed it, or at least are proposing to remove it in this ordinance. And lastly, this is with respect to emergency shelter parking. There was a new assembly bill that came down that pretty much states, and it's in your packet, sufficient parking to accommodate all staff working in the emergency shelter, provided that the standards do not require more parking for emergency shelters than other residential or commercial uses within the same zone. So what we did is we put an asterisk in the land use table that pretty much copies and mirrors state law, so that all of our ADU, JADU, emergency shelter parking, etc., is up to snuff with current state law. So it is a cleanup ordinance for your review. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Ms. Mizrahi or anybody else on staff regarding this item?
I just have one question. What does Desert Hot Springs have emergency shelters? What are they and where are they?
I would defer to staff on that. I don't think we do at this time, but I'll go ahead and defer to staff.
Yeah, hi, this is Juan. We do not have any emergency shelters in the city as of today. This is in case of something were to happen, then we would be in compliance as far as parking requirements, but we do not have one at this time.
And what I would like to add to Juan's statement is that what the city does do, though, is partner with outside social service agencies. And we actually contribute some funding as well to regional efforts for those causes and needs. So while there isn't a shelter here, we do have partner agencies that we attempt to work with to assist those that are experiencing issues.
Okay, just curious.
Any other questions? Not, I will entertain a motion at this time.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, it is a public hearing. I don't know if we have anybody who wants to speak on this item.
My apologies, that is correct. Open the public hearing. Do we have anyone who wants to speak on this item?
I do not have anybody, no.
Okay, then I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Chair,
Yes.
did any of the commissioners have any questions in regards to that? Just by any chance, none of us? I don't know. It's different when we're all on Zoom.
Does anyone have any questions? I thought I asked, but seeing none. Entertain a motion?
This is Vice Chair Duffel. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duffield. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Grant?
Aye.
Commissioner Marhoffen?
No.
Commissioner Nindell?
Yes, aye.
Vice Chair Duffel?
Aye.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes with Nindell in opposition. I mean with Marhoffen in opposition, sorry.
Okay, I did see that I got a note here that Veterans High Risk, is that Veterans High Risk? Yes, is attempting to call in right now.
I do have one of them now logged in.
Okay, could we ask them if they object to going now or they would prefer to go later?
All right, I'm just waiting on a response.
Mr. Paredes is one of the applicants.
Mr. Praise, can you hear me? Can we unmute him for a moment?
I've asked him to unmute several times.
Is he connected by any chance through is he on a call or through the computer?
No idea. Since they're not responding, I think maybe we should just go back to the first one and then maybe try after that. How's that? Is everybody okay with that?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. So then we will go back to what was number 2, TE 21-8 and TE 21-10, request for a 1-year extension of time for CUP 13-17 and a 3-year extension of time for TPM 37322 and TTM 37331. Can I get a staff report, please?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, fellow planning commissioners. Yes, this item is time extension 21-8 and time extension 21-10, and I just have a short PowerPoint presentation. I'd use it on this screen so I can click through it easier, just in case I got to go back. So the applicants are Innovative Investment Company LLC and New Green Acres for both the time extensions. And here's the vicinity map. Now on the left would be Innovative Investment Company, and they're located right there, those 2 parcels on Little Morongo Road, San Gorgonio Lane, and on the right is New Green Acres. Here's a little bit of a background. For time extension 21-8, on September 25th, 2017, the Planning Commission conducted a public hearing and special meeting and adopted a motion to approve conditional use permit CUP 13-17 for a cannabis facility along with tentative parcel map TPM 37322 for the merger of these 2 lots and re-subdivision. These are APN 665-030, 039, and 040. And then on October 8, 2019, the Planning Commission conducted a public hearing and approved a 1-year time extension for CUP 1317 and TPM 37322. And most recently, August 11, 2020, the Planning Commission conducted a public hearing and approved a 1-year time extension for CUP 1317 and TPM 37322. Now, the full build out for this project will be to construct 4 attached 1-story buildings totaling 68,400 square feet of gross floor area, GFA, and each building having a floor area of 17,100 square feet on this 3.56 acre site. The second one, time extension 21-10, and you'll see they were both originally approved at the same Planning Commission meeting, September 25th, 2017, when they conducted that public hearing and approved TTM 37331 for the subdivision of the property and development of the site with a cannabis cultivation facility with the associated CUP that is active, CUP 12-17. Obviously, this is New Green Acres, APN 665-110006. And then on September 10th, 2019, the Planning Commission conducted a public hearing and approved a 2-year extension for this TTM 37331. This one is actually for the subdivision of the property into 8 lots. It's in support of the indoor cannabis cultivation facility that already has been completed on the first site. And the full build out will be to construct 7 additional 2-story facilities with a gross floor area of approximately 37,322 square feet for each building on this quite big site's 15.1 acres. Now, the environmental analysis, the M&Ds were certified at the original approval, so all the Planning Commission needs to do is make a finding that the requests for these time extensions are consistent with the original M&D. No further analysis is required, and there are no significant changes proposed as this part of this extension of time. Now, staff's recommendation is that the Planning Commission grant time extension 21-8, a 1-year time extension to CUP 1317 from September 25th, 2021 to September 25th, 2022, and a 3-year extension of time for TPM 37322 from September 25th, 2021 to September 25th, 2024, and then for time extension 21-10, another 3 years for this TTM 37331 from September 25th, 2021 to September 25th, 2024. And for maps, that is what the municipal code says is the most allowed. So that's what they applied for. Let me stop sharing here. I think I'm out. I think it left. That the applicant for New Green Acres is here, but I did get a message that Mr. Brizuela from MSA Consulting is here for time extension 21-8. But I'm available for any questions, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will take questions of staff. Who would like to go first? I don't see anybody raising their hand, so I guess I will. I just want to clarify. This is 2 items, correct?
Yes.
2 are together. The CUP 1317 and the tract map 37322 is 1 item,
Yes.
and the 37331 is a separate item, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And the applicant is aware that this CUP, this is the last 1-year extension?
They are aware. And I think they may speak about that too, because I know they have plans for this project.
Okay. That's all my questions for now. I see that Commissioner Grant has her hand up.
Okay, my only question, and I guess to staff, was, is the parking correct from what I was reading in there? I believe for this one, there's parking for handicap accessible. Is that accurate? Is sufficient?
Absolutely, 1 per 25. So when it was originally approved, they definitely went through it. I believe the staff reports were written by Craig Ewing, very precise. So that was reviewed at the original approval.
Right, except for, is it one going to be van accessible? Because
Always.
it's not, okay. It's
1 per
not
25 van accessible.
okay, it wasn't written in there, and that was my concern. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if you mind, I can just brief into whenever the applicant decides to go into the building plan check, whatever California State American Disabled Accessibility requirements are at that time would be required no matter what. So even if maybe next year it changes and it requires additional, it would be required to have additional. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so we will need 2 motions here. Would anybody like to start with a motion for either of these?
Did we do public comments yet?
We did not. I'm sorry. I'm not with it today. Thank you. Okay, at this time, open the public hearing and take testimony from the applicants if they are here.
Hello? Can everybody hear me just fine?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. Well, first of all, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. Christopher Brizuela here with MSA Consulting. I'm representing the first project for innovative investment companies. That was the one that you saw right there on Little Morongo Road and Sangonia Lane. Yeah, just want to say thanks to Dan for the pretty straightforward staff report. That it hit our request pretty well. And yeah, I'm available to answer any questions if, yeah, in the commission.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
During your harvest time, you'll have extra cars parked there because you'll have extra people there. Where will they be parking?
Sure. Actually, I guess that would be more of an operator's question. I'm really more on the planning and entitlement side of things, so more on how the site plan would work. But when these projects were, when the site planning was designed for these, they were taken into account to meet the city's parking ordinance. So there should be enough parking in respect to the operator's demand on there. So we're pretty confident that it would meet it.
And just for clarification, Chris, I know you gave us the name of the company. Can someone do me a favor and tell me which of these two items he is speaking on?
It's CUP 1317 and TPM
Okay.
7322.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Any other comments? Okay. At this time, we'll take public testimony. Is there anybody in favor of this item?
No.
Any speakers opposed?
No.
So I guess there's no need for a rebuttal on that. Close the public hearing. Any discussion or questions among Planning Commission members? Okay. Anybody like to make a motion?
Vice Chair Duffel, I'd like to motion to move staff's recommendation.
For which one?
I figured we were doing them both together. They were lumped together on the agenda.
I know that in the past we have lumped them, but it was my understanding we do have to do separate for each one. I will defer to the attorney for that. Am I correct or incorrect?
Let's go ahead and take them separately. They are two separate requests, so just for ease of the hearings, we could take them separately.
Okay.
All right, fantastic. Then let's see here. My motion would be to approve a 3-year extension of time subject to the proposed conditions of approval for tentative parcel map APN number 665030039 and 040. Would that be the first one?
I do believe, do we have to do three separate, or because the two were one item, we can
Two
do the
applications.
CUP also?
There are two applications. The TPM and the CUP was one application.
Okay.
So
All right, let me reword that then. In the future, if we're going to be doing these separately, may I ask staff to separate them up to make it a little bit easier to make the motions? I'd greatly appreciate it.
you mean, okay, yeah. No problem.
We will do that. Just so you know, we will be doing that. I'll be talking with staff tomorrow about that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilms. Ms. City Attorney, would you be so kind as to help me out with separating these motions so that they would be feasible? I'm trying to motion for approval.
Yeah. Okay, so I understand it. So the first motion would be extension of time for CUP 13-17 with, is it the 13-17 for TPM 37322? Is that correct, staff?
Yeah, it's time extension 21-8 and time extension 21-10.
Okay, why don't we do it that way then? Why don't we do motion to approve time extension 21-8?
And then separate time extension 21-10 and that'll clear it up.
And I'll make changes next time.
All right, fantastic.
We'll take these separately from now on.
We'll do it that way. Motion to approve time extension 21-8.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Can I get a vote, please?
Commissioner Grant?
Aye.
Commissioner Merhoffen?
Aye.
Commissioner Nindell?
Aye.
Vice Chair Duffel?
Aye.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yeah.
like to make a second motion here to approve time extension 21-10.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I get a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Can I get a vote, please?
Commissioner Grant,
Aye.
Commissioner Merhoffen,
Aye.
Commissioner Nindell,
Aye.
Vice Chair Duffel,
Aye.
Chairman Griffith.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. I see some notes that Mr. Paredes is having some issues with the phone connection. They can hear us. We can't hear them, but they are online. So maybe we can try in the interim to get those issues worked out. I think we should just go right to the next one since they are having those issues. So our next item would be tentative tract map number 38187 and conditional use permit number 21-6, an amendment to the previously approved conditional use permit number 8-18 to establish 11 industrial buildings totaling approximately 257,604 square feet. The 9.27 acre project site is located on the east side of Little Morongo, north of 13th Avenue / Hacienda Avenue in the light industrial zone. Can I get a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. The 9.27 acre parcel is located on the east side of Little Morongo Road, north of 13th Avenue in the light industrial zoning district as shown here. The previously approved project, as shown here on the left, was for 3 freestanding buildings totaling approximately 168,000 square feet for cannabis uses. The new proposed project, shown on the right, is now for 11 two-story buildings totaling approximately 257,604 square feet, also for cannabis uses. The proposed amendment also includes a tentative tract map for condominium purposes, which consists of absolute ownership of the industrial buildings and common ownership of the land and common areas. The project buildings will consist of a concrete tilt-up construction. Exterior finishes will include concrete colored tilt-top, antique bronze cap, flashing an architectural canopy, and dark red painted metal wall panels, as shown here. The parking for 177 vehicles is provided. 6 of those spaces are designated for ADA access, which meets the minimum requirements of 149 spaces. Access to the site will be from Little Morongo Road. The proposed landscape will include a drought-tolerant flowering tree and shrubs that have a desert-friendly palette with substantial plantings along the street frontage and around the perimeter of the site, parking area, and retention basin. An initial study has been prepared and which determined that the development of the proposed cannabis facility will not have a significant impact on the environment with the implementation of mitigation measures. The MND is attached for consideration and certification at the discretion of the Planning Commission. Staff finds that the proposed project is consistent with the general plan and meets the development standards of the light industrial zoning district. With that said, this is a consideration for the Planning Commission to certify the mitigated negative declaration, approve conditional use permit number 21-6 to amend a previously approved project, also known as CUP 08-18, approve tentative tract map number 38187 for condominium purposes only on a 9.27 acre parcel at APN 663-260-002. Staff would like to advise that the applicant as of today submitted revised renderings as shown here, and I will have the applicant provide details on the proposed changes. That concludes my report. I'm available if you have any questions, and the applicant is also here. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Okay, I'll open the public hearing and take testimony from the applicant.
Good evening, Chairman, members of Planning Commission, staff. My name is Michael Shadman. I'm the architect and also the developer on this project. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Shedman. Anybody have any questions? No questions? Anybody here to speak in favor?
No.
Opposed?
No.
At time I will close public hearing. Any discussion among the commissioners or to staff?
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners, and staff. This is Ryan Saftis, Michael's business partner.
Okay, hold on a second. Let me open the public hearing again. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in on a couple things. First of all, thank you for your time this evening. We're really excited to hopefully get your approval on this evening. We've done some work. As mentioned, we've updated some of the renderings and just kind of cleaned up the facade of the buildings, going with some smoother panels, and we think just a little bit more of a modern look, which I think is going to be really attractive for the city and from Little Morongo Road. There were a couple points that I wanted to go through on the conditions of approval that I just wanted a clarification on if I could. One of them is on item number 33. If you're not exactly aware where this property is, we basically share a fence line with the MedMen facility. We're just to the north of that. And there is 13th Avenue, which I think is also referred to as Hacienda Drive, that is along that property line. When we purchased the property recently, we were advised that that street was probably not going to be improved and run through the wash, continuing on to the residential side off to the east. And wanted to make sure that the city was not expecting us to do a full street improvement or even a 50-foot wide street improvement, which I believe is referenced here in these documents. So I'm not sure if you have any input on that, but we're really curious what the city's expecting of that street improvement.
Mr. Chair, I can answer that.
Thank you.
Yes, the city does originally require the original project to construct the north half of 13th. And the only reason the condition remained there was because there was an access point that's shown on the site plan. If you are to remove the access point, then the 13th Street would not be required. It would just be required to connect down south to Little Morongo to the adjacent property south of this project. And that can be achieved by either eliminating or revising that the south driveway that is connected to 13th Avenue. That was the exact design that was before, and that 13th Avenue driveway was eliminated and was removed, and everything was able to achieve. I expected the same to be with this project as well.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes.
Mr. Porras, I think one of the intent we had for that street is basically to grade it, put DG in there, and use it as an overflow parking. And I know these issues, although we have plenty of extra parkings, but we thought instead of leaving it as there, maybe we can encompass it in our project and just come up with an area for an overflow parking. Whether we're going to fence it in or not, I think that's a different question, but definitely that's our intent.
That would be a completely different intent from a public street. So that was not contemplated in this project or in the conditions of approval.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Mr. Porras, isn't it also correct that we cannot park on something like DG that's considered a permeable surface, not an impermeable surface?
Correct. Yeah, that is actually shown as a public street. Therefore, the conditions of approval are written as a public street. In order to change that design, you would need to change and either amend the condition or amend your site plan, or a different alternative site plan will need to be submitted.
Is that something that we can work on with the planning and public works to come up with a solution for it?
We can come up with the solution for the street. Parking in public street is a completely different scenario, but yes. I think you guys are confusing two different things. One's a conditional approval of the street, and that you can definitely work directly with engineering department about building it out or designing it where it's not needed. Another completely different subject would be parking on it.
Got it. I understand.
Yeah, looking through the rest, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was to say, looking through the rest of the conditions, I think everything is what we expected. Like I said, we just closed escrow on this property a few weeks ago, so we're quickly trying to pull all these plans together. Our goal, though, is to have grading plans submitted here in the next week or so, and we'd like to be in construction here near the end of the year. So appreciate all your support on getting this project approved.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for them?
I just have one question, Mr. Chair. This is Vice Chair Duffel. I was looking through the plans and I noticed on the trash enclosures, it's a small one, on the trash enclosures, we've got a 1 foot 8 inch gap between the top of the base of the enclosure and the actual top of the enclosure itself. And since public testimony has been reopened, I'd like to ask the applicant if they would be opposed to remedying that opening and utilizing maybe the same kind of materials to close that gap up, as 1 foot 8 inches is still quite a bit of room for rummaging and things like that. And I'd really like to see that gap closed up just so we don't have some of the same problems we've had with other locations in the past.
We're definitely open for improvement. We're willing to make that change.
Fantastic. That was my only question, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else? And again, and no one to speak for or against, I'm still assuming.
No, there is not.
Okay, then let's go ahead and close this hearing and have some discussion. Is there any discussion for staff? Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion.
Let's do. We can let
Question.
about this for a moment, right, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Sure, I have a question.
Yes.
After hearing the applicant and their concerns with 33, is there anything before we make a motion that we that maybe we need to table it? Do we need to table it? Do we need to modify it or something like that first before we make a motion?
I think, if I may, Mr. Chair, I believe I believe some of the modifications they were talking about would require some conversations with staff. If we approve it as it stands, I believe the applicant would be responsible for any improvements on their side of the street on Hacienda. If I'm correct, Danny, am I wrong on that?
That is correct. And modifications as to completing the improvements or removing that driveway can be done administratively. That wouldn't require any type of a modification to condition.
Thank you. You helped me out with that, Danny, a great deal. Appreciate it. And as far as everything looks, I mean, personally, I think everything looks great here. I think they've done a phenomenal job with the product that they're bringing to us. Again, I'll restate my concern. I'd love to see this move forward, but I would definitely like to see that minor modification done, getting that 1 foot 8 inch gap at the top of the garbage enclosures closed off. That would be my only suggestion when we make the motion, to make sure that that gets taken care of.
Any other questions or discussion?
Yes, this is for the cultivators, right? Be cultivating there? Is that correct?
Yes.
So they'll have security guards? So to take care of that trash enclosure, you have security guards there? I don't agree with that. Let them go ahead with their regular plan. They have security guards there that can take care of people digging in their trash cans.
Okay.
So is there going to be a I don't agree with it. We're going to make a motion to add that to it. And what are we going to, in this off-street parking, hacienda, and who's going to be responsible for it? That should come back to the planning commission at the time that they make that change. Who is deciding if that street's going to go all the way through eventually or not go all the way through? I believe we need to keep that street open and make it go all the way through. And I'm not saying the applicant should pay for it all, but what I'm saying here is we may need that street for future use with the growth of the city and to redirect traffic in a different direction. So I disagree with those two issues.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyerhoffen. I don't think that, I think the street issue is not, what they were talking about is something different as far as whether the street goes all the way through or not, and that's not under our jurisdiction as much as the city. And I think we've kind of addressed that in that if this goes through, that condition of approval is, as long as they have that entry there, they will be required to do, I think, the half a street. As far as the trash enclosure, you're talking about a gap at the top. Is that correct, Vice Chair Duffel?
Yeah, that's correct. It's like it's one. I believe it's 1 foot 8 inch gap. It's about enough for somebody to slip through, and that's why I asked during public comments, and they were okay with it.
So I can say that one of the issues with trash and access is not just with people. However, it is also with animals, and anyone that knows anything about the issue with the ravens we have in the area knows that the more trash they have, the more they breed, and they are very adept at puncturing the shells of the desert tortoise. And so that is one of the reasons that we try to keep trash enclosed also, is because of the environmental issue that results from the extra bird. So I myself would prefer to make sure that we don't have access, and it's not just them, but there are other desert critters that can actually get in there and get stuff. So that would just be my, I would agree with Vice Chair Duffel, but.
Chairman Griffin, I disagree with that explanation. I live in the area that wasn't incorporated before, and actually I haven't seen any ravens around in a while. But anyways, I'm not going to dispute the issue with you. It's not
okay. That. Anybody else? We have a motion.
As Vice Chair Duffel, I would like to motion to approve tentative tract map number 38187 and conditional use permit number 21-6 with the modification to the trash enclosures that we close up at least 1 foot 5 inches of that 1 foot 8 inch gap.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
A motion, a second. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Grant? I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Aye.
Commissioner Meyerhoffen?
No.
Commissioner Nindell?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duffel?
Aye.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes with Commissioner Meyerhoffen opposed.
Thank you. Okay. Our next item is, we're bound to our veterans high-risk security. So conditional use permit 21-8 veterans high-risk security solutions. First of all, can we make sure that they are able to we can hear them? I know they were having some technical difficulties, and I would like a staff report also.
I have the staff report. I think Mr. Paredes can hear us. I see his hand raised, but I could go ahead if you would like.
Yeah, he can hear us. He's just having trouble with the microphone, I guess.
Okay, excellent. Well, good evening again, Mr. Chairman, fellow planning commissioners. Yes, this item is conditional use permit 21-8, and I have another short PowerPoint presentation. Can you see it?
Close.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, I can't hear you guys, so if you could hear me.
Can you hear us?
Okay, there we go. It's like echoed out right there, but if you can hear me, I'll move forward. All right, so the project here is Veterans High Risk Security Solutions Incorporated, Conditional Use Permit number 21-8. Here's the vicinity map. So it's located at 19020 North Indian Canyon Drive in Unit 3A. And this property down here is zoned commercial business park. And cannabis delivery is permitted by the municipal code with the approval of a conditional use permit. Now, I was out there a few weeks ago. I took some pictures, talked to the gentleman, the applicant, William Stanifer of Veterans High Risk Security Solutions. He filed for the application. And they're a licensed security company that operates here out of the Desert Hot Springs area. They're applying for this with the city to obtain a transport-only Type 13 license with the state of California. This is one small office and has one small bathroom. I was inside. It's an open warehouse space in this facility where they store their two vehicles, a 2016 Dodge Ram and a 2007 Ford Expedition, and there's never any product on site at absolutely ever. And then I took a picture of one of their vehicles here. The other one wasn't there at the time. And then, so, you know, for an environmental analysis, when it comes to conditional use permits, you know, for them, there is no actually, this project is exempt from further review as an existing facility under section 15301 of the California Environmental Quality Act. So that does not pertain, and it is staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission approve conditional use permit 21-8 to allow Veterans High Risk Security Solutions Incorporated, which is a cannabis delivery service, to operate out of 19020 North Indian Canyon Drive, Unit 3A, with the approval, like I said, of that conditional use permit. And this was the last picture I saw in their rafters, so it was a good experience. And I know that the individuals have a lot to share, so if you have any questions directed straight to about their business, I would direct it to the applicants themselves. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if you could hear me, I believe you're on mute.
You are correct. At this time, I still have to ask, anybody have any questions for staff?
I do have a question for Dan. Dan, on this one, I know we discussed a little bit at the meeting. If I remember correctly, they are currently a security company. They're wanting to basically spread their wings a little bit and move into cannabis delivery, secured delivery, correct?
Yes, and they are operating. They have a security business down there for multiple operating existing cultivation facilities as we speak. So.
Sure, they're just trying to grow their business a little bit and expand.
Yeah, and so it's for the state of California, and it was brought into the city when I met the gentleman, and then we all kind of got on board. Okay, this is what they're requiring. We want to make sure that you are complying with them, and as well as the city, obviously. So that's why it's being brought forward tonight.
Fantastic. That was my questions. Thank you.
I have one, and it's just, I just want to reiterate something you said, and that is that there is no product on site. This is basically their office and parking, and that's what we're doing, correct?
Yes, there's a bathroom, a warehouse, two vehicles. I was in there, I talked to them, and it was very much known that there's definitely, it would be in a violation, I believe, to have anything ever there. So that's definitely the case.
Okay. Commissioner Grant, I see your hand raised.
So my question, basically, is have they been in operation before in the city?
I would defer that one to the applicants. I believe so. But when it comes to this type of license, they would be better off answering those questions. And I do see that both of them are here now.
Okay. Anybody else for staff before I open public hearing? Okay, at this time, I'll open the public hearing and take testimony from the applicants, and then I know that Commissioner Grant would like to ask them questions. So if they are available.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, great.
William Stanifer
And Henry.
Henry. We've been operating in the Desert Hot Springs area since 2016. June is when we got our license. We have a state transport only license. We had an interim and then a provisional. So we follow all the metric rules and we've been through the systems. We only go to a legally licensed facility and then we pick up the product, make sure the manifests are filled out correctly, and then we take it to their distribution center, and every place has to be legally licensed, and then we drop off. We never do overnights, and we usually only stick to the Southern California, the LA, San Diego area. So we're not trying to go too far. Everything we do has to be done and completed in a one-day period.
Chair, may I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, will you still be retaining the same name?
The license under the state of California is under the same company name, Veterans High Risk Security Solutions. We have we did have a cannabis transportation license with the city of Desert Hot Springs for about 2 years, and then it went to the state license and then back to where we're at now. But the name is staying under one name.
So you had a license before with Desert Hot Springs. Is that what you're saying for delivery?
Correct. We have a security license to operate a security company in the city of Desert Hot Springs. And I think we have a normal transportation license with the city of Desert Hot Springs. I have to check on the second one.
Does the state require you to have any type of GPS when you start delivering? I'm assuming that the BCC, now you're under them right now. I think it's the DCC.
Yes, we've had to follow the RAM ProMaster that Dan was there. We didn't get to see it. It is equipped with a 2.5 terabyte hard drive. It has 360 cameras. We have 5 cameras surrounding, one that watches the product itself in the back. The doors lock to the rear. It has a separate air conditioning unit system in the back, and it's completely separated from the driver with a cage. It also has an alarm system on the vehicle. The other vehicle that he showed you, the 2007, is a fully armored expedition, ballistic glass type vehicle that we operate. That's our only 2 vehicles.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have any testimony in favor?
No, we do not.
Anything opposed?
No, we do not.
Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion. If anyone has any question, doesn't have any questions.
Mr. Chair, this is Vice Chair Duffel. Not hearing any questions. So with that being said, I would like to motion to approve conditional use permit number 21-8, Veterans High Risk Security Solutions conditional use permit with conditions to allow cannabis delivery service to operate out of 19020 North Indian Canyon Drive, Unit 3A.
Thank you, Vice Chair Duffel. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyerhoff. And I have a motion and a second. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Grant?
I'm abstaining.
I'm sorry?
Abstaining.
Thank you. Commissioner Meyerhoffen?
Yes.
Commissioner Nindell?
Yes.
Vice Chair Duffel?
Aye.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes with Commissioner Grant abstaining.
Thank you. Okay, so now that takes us to our last item.
Mr. Chair, if I may, this is Vice Chair Duffel. I will be recusing from this item, and so if you can, please excuse me.
I can do that. If everybody doesn't mind, I would like to take a 5-minute recess so that I can run to the restroom real fast.
She's the one. What's her name? She abstained. That means she didn't want to vote.
Did anybody want to mute themselves out?
Okay, I don't see everybody back yet. I see the commissioners all back. We'll give city staff another minute. Looks like we have everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Kind of quiet. Okay, we will resume. So looks like our last item is APP 21-1, an appeal of Community Development Director's determination for development permit number 21-11 for the conversion of temporary greenhouses located at 18776 Blue Dream Crossing within the city of Desert Hot Springs. And before we get started, I wanted to throw out a question to the city attorney, because when I read through all this, a lot of this has to do with the validity of whether or not regarding development impact fees. And I don't know that the Planning Commission in of itself has jurisdiction over those or not. So could you clarify that for me? And if not, are we able to just not do the hearing, but refer this up to City Council?
Sure. Go ahead, Rakita. I'm sorry.
I am in agreement with everything that you said, because that's what I was going to ask you, if that's at all possible for us to do.
So the issue before the commission is basically an appeal of the development permit, but in particular, it has to do with the condition of approval related to development impact fees. Normally, obviously, waiver, lessening, anything like that of development impact fees is solely a matter for the city council. Planning Commission has jurisdiction in terms of only kind of it sees those kinds of conditions of approval. But in a matter like this, I would actually say that the development impact fee issue is more of an issue for the city council. With that said, to answer your question as to whether or not the Planning Commission can move so this item be heard by the City Council, it is the code is actually silent as to whether or not the Commission can do that or not. Therefore, my thought is that because the City Council is the highest body in the city, any appeal, obviously, of the Planning Commission decision would go to the City Council. So my thought process is, should the Planning Commission kind of defer this matter, if you will, to the City Council, I would not have an objection to that. As I said, the code is silent, and it would have been likely that the City Council hear this matter regardless, maybe. So with that said, there's no specific granting of authority, but there's also no specific not granting of authority. So because the City Council is the highest body in the city, because development impact fees in general fall within the jurisdiction of the City Council, I don't see a reason why the Planning Commission could not defer it to the City Council. That said, if the Planning Commission wanted to do it that way, again, it's a noticed public hearing before the City Council, so we would obviously have to renotice. Kind of a long-winded answer, I guess, to your question.
Okay, I would certainly think going through this, it will most likely end up that way. And therefore, I would certainly entertain a motion at this point if anybody would like to make a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Defer this to City Council. Thank you, Commissioner Grant.
I'd like to move to make a motion to remand this back to City Council. Do I need to have any extra language for that? Please say that's sufficient.
Sure. It wouldn't be to remand. It would actually.
Well, I know remand is court of law, but return it to the appropriate body that has the
hearing.
Right.
Yeah, I would reword that just to kind of refer it to them, since it never went to them to begin with. We're just kind of bump it up. But does anybody have a second for that motion?
If I may, the legal counsel for the applicant has their hand raised.
Sure. Ms. Mizrahi, the applicant, the legal counsel for the applicant has their hand raised. Do I need to open the public hearing and start this process then?
I would actually say yes, then we would open the public hearing. I see Lenny Asaro is here, who's Coachillan's legal counsel. If I may just ask him a quick question before we open, just a yes or no. Mr. Asaro, do you object to that?
I'm not here to be interrogated or questioned by you.
Okay.
So.
With that, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, please go ahead and open. Let's go ahead and I don't know what the question is of legal counsel, so we may want to go ahead and just proceed.
Okay, then we'll proceed as normal, right? For the time being, I guess we need to, does Commissioner Grant need to withdraw her motion at this time so we can move forward?
Well, I will withdraw if need be.
Thank you, Commissioner Grant. All right, so
I haven't even said anything. I was going to ask a question if I'm allowed to do that.
I do believe we have to open the public hearing in order for that to happen, though. That's all.
That's fine.
Okay,
that's fine.
So if there's no questions from Planning Commission for staff at this time, let's go ahead and open the public hearing so that we can hear Mr. Asaro's question. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, and good evening. My name is Lenny Asaro, and I'm one of the legal counsels for Coachillan Holdings LLC, representative of the applicant. What was stated was that because the code does not state expressly that this commission can defer this matter to the city council, that it then has authority to do something that the code does not expressly state that it can do. That is what was stated. The code clearly states that appeals from the director are appealed to the plan commission, to the plan commissioners. That's what the code says. Because the code is silent or absent with respect to something, does not then provide the authority for the commissioners to do something that is not written in the code. Therefore, in the event that a vote is taken to send this to the city council, which would be in violation of the express procedure in your municipal code, that would be a violation of the code.
Mr. Chair.
If that vote is, if I can just conclude, therefore, if that is ultimately your decision, then it is your decision. But there is absolutely nothing in the code to support doing that. In fact, the code says just the opposite. It requires that this particular body hears appeals from the director.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, if I may answer, I don't necessarily agree with Mr. Asaro. However, that said, I could see where this would be going. Since that's the case, why don't we go ahead and proceed with staff report, opening the public hearing and doing what, obviously presenting the matter before the Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Asaro. I will close the public hearing and we will probably hear from you shortly, okay? So at this time, if I could get a staff report.
Yes. Thank you. The Coachillan Industrial Park is approximately 153.71 gross acres bounded by 18th Avenue to the north, 19th Avenue to the south, Indian Canyon to the west, and Calle de los Romos to the east, as shown here. This is an appeal of the Community Development Director's determination for the conversion of the temporary greenhouses on parcel 33 within the Cochillan Industrial Park. With that said, before you, we have two resolutions. A resolution upholding the Community Development Director's determination to conditionally approve development permit number 21-11 with minor modifications to conditions of approval. Second, a resolution overturning the Community Development Director's determination to conditionally approve development permit number 21-11 or provide direction as the Planning Commission sees fit. That concludes my report. I am available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do anybody on the commission have any questions for staff at this time?
I, Chair, if I may. So then the question would be, again, of how we see fit. Let me lower my hand. For this particular agenda item, is it possible for us to maybe table it and come back? Or no? Okay. Thank you, Chair. I saw you.
Thank you, Commissioner Grant. Any other questions of staff from any other commissioners at this time? Okay. At this time, we'll open the public hearing again, take testimony from the applicants.
May I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Griffith. Again, my name is Lenny Asaro. I am one of the attorneys for the applicant. This particular appeal is not an appeal of the reversal of the ultimate determination that was made by the director. This is an appeal with respect to specific conditions of approval. In particular, one of the conditions of approval known as condition of approval number 15. Condition of approval number 15 states, and it's in the staff report, and I quote, with respect to the development impact fees and in recognition of the need for improvements causing impacts of any development within the 2010 annexation area. That is a partial quote, but it's the relevant quote from that particular sentence. That particular statement in the condition, the words in recognition of the need for improvements causing impacts of the development within the 2010 annexation area. Who made the determination that there is a quote need for improvements causing impacts of this development or any development within the 2010 annexation area? Did the city council make that determination? If so, when did they make it? Did the city's undisclosed Nexus study consultants make that determination? If so, when did they make that determination? The only person or entity or firm or consultant who could determine legally that there is a need for improvements causing impacts of this or any other development within the 2010 annexation area is the undisclosed Nexus study consultant. And subsequent to that determination in an updated study, then the city council would need to adopt the updated Nexus study in order to have a basis for imposing development impact fees and the calculations related thereto. Who is the undisclosed Nexus study consultant? Why hasn't the consultant completed the updated Nexus study? I have been representing Cochillan for a little more than 3 years. And during that time, from the very first time I became involved in representing this client, I have been repeatedly told over the last 3 years or more that the updated Nexus study is almost finished. How long did it take to complete the 2008 Nexus study, which is the only Nexus study that exists? Why is it taking 11, 10, 9, 8 years to complete the updated Nexus study? Why is it taking at least 3 years since I've been involved representing this client on this development to complete an updated Nexus study? The condition itself specifically states, and I quote, "The diff shall be payable upon the completion of the updated Nexus study identifying the appropriate diffs for properties in the 2010 annexation area, which includes the project," close quote. Yet the first sentence makes the assumption that there's a need for development impact fees. The staff report states that under fiscal impact, quote, "If the director's decision is overturned, the city would not receive development impact fees for this project." Close quote. This is not an accurate statement. The only way that the city is legally allowed to impose and require development impact fees is if, A, the Nexus study determines that this development will cause impacts with respect to the 8 categories that are listed in your municipal code that are identified and listed on page 2 of the staff report. Those are the 8 categories listed in section 17.144.010 of your municipal code. And secondly, the city would need to impose the development impact fee as a condition to issuing a building permit. Those are the express words in the municipal code, and the time upon which the development impact fees would be issued being upon issuance of the permit is stated clearly in the staff report. Why hasn't there been an updated Nexus report so that this issue once and for all can be finally put to rest? What this particular condition proposes is the following. If this particular development, not the master development, but the development for which this permit was approved, is completed, and a Nexus study is not completed for another 5 years, 6 years, let's call it 3 years since I've been involved representing this particular client. The city then is going to go back and impose a development impact fee 3, 4, 5 years after the fact for impacts that are purportedly caused at the present time, 2021, when the conditions of approval were imposed. The impacts will be purportedly determined 3, 4, 5 years from now, and they're supposed to apply back to 2021 when the condition was approved. The problem is that there's no updated Nexus study. And until there's an updated Nexus study, this issue will continue to happen over and over and over again. What we proposed, not only this time, but on prior appeals, is that this particular condition simply state that the Mitigation Fee Act, which is a statute, a California statute, on which development impact fees are based, and then subsequently your municipal code relies on that act, that the condition just simply state the Mitigation Fee Act applies, that the city has rights under the Mitigation Fee Act, and the applicant developer has rights under the Mitigation Fee Act. And any and all language that makes assumptions about the impact of this or any other project within the 2010 annexation area not be included, because it's simply not a factual statement. No one has made that determination. The city council has not, this commission has not, nor has the undisclosed Nexus study consultant, if there is one, has made that determination. Such a determination, a recognition of impacts that applies to 8 different categories, law enforcement facilities, fire suppression facilities and response vehicles, streets, bridges, and traffic signals, storm drainage facilities, general facilities, vehicles and equipment, community public use center facilities, aquatic center facilities, park acquisition and development. Those are defined categories, and the only way that a project's impact can be determined is if there is a study, just like the 2008 study that exists, which is what this city relies on when it imposes development impact fees on properties that were part of the city when it adopted that Nexus study. The 2010 Nexus, the 2010 annexation area was not part of this city when that 2008 study was adopted. So it cannot be included as part of it. So that's what we're proposing. There was a third bullet point that was shown in the staff report as to what the options are. Option number one, to go with the first proposal, which is to deny this appeal completely. The second is to accept our appeal and remove condition 15 and make the other corrections, which I'm not going to take the time of this commission to go over because I think those are pretty clear and explanatory. Or alternatively, take it under advisement and propose a condition of approval number 15 that simply states the Mitigation Fee Act applies, which it does, and that the developer owner has rights under it, as does the city. That is the fair, objective proposal that is available to this particular body. Finally, it is my understanding that the city that the city has been informed, perhaps this commission, that the city defeated Cochillan's most recent challenge to a condition of approval, similar to this particular condition of approval number 15. This representation is just not accurate. The reason why it's not accurate is because what happened in that case, and the order clearly states it, the court refused to consider Cochillan's challenge on the merits, meaning whether or not the city has a right to impose development impact fees as part of a condition of approval like this one, and the prior three that it imposed on other conditions of approval. Whether it can do it, the court decided that it would not hear the issue because Cochillan's complaint was not filed within the 90-day period. Those are the facts. In the event that this particular commission, or perhaps even the city council, elects not to choose the third way, which is to simply state that the Mitigation Fee Act applies, the city has rights and the developer has rights to avoid this issue, this will be appealed. A complaint will be filed in the courts, and it will be filed well before the 90-day period. We don't want that. If there was a Nexus study that existed that applied, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But until an updated Nexus study is done, this issue will continue to arise time after time after time, or until a court decides the issue. Which is the reason why I conclude and respectfully ask you to go the third way. The third way is to simply say that condition number 15 states that the Mitigation Fee Act applies, that the city has rights under that act, that the owner developer has rights under that act. And if it wants to say it, they can say that the city is still working on obtaining an updated Nexus study. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Sarlo. Do we have anybody else from the applicant who wants to speak at this time?
I have Catherine here, but I'm not sure if she wants to speak.
I think Lenny summed it up pretty well. I don't want to take anyone else's time. We would just appreciate if everyone would take into consideration actually creating the third option as Lenny described.
Thank you, Catherine Beneteau. I don't know, maybe you got married. If so, congratulations.
I did think.
Okay, anybody else in favor of the, anybody else for the applicant's side at this time?
No, there is not.
Okay, anybody here to speak in favor of this item
No.
or against?
No.
Okay, then at this time I will close the public hearing, and then we will have some discussion perhaps. Would anybody like to say or ask any questions or anything like that? I don't see anybody, so I guess I'll go because I have a list. I know that as far as, I know the Nexus Report is a big thing on this, and it was my understanding, I know originally we had talked before it was going to be done last fall. And I know also that COVID has kind of delayed everything. I don't know that I would call a Nexus Report as part of the supply chain, but I know that if you're trying to get chlorine for your pool, you're probably waiting for that too. Can I get some idea of what is the status of the Nexus Report?
Yes, I'm happy to provide that. So, Chairman Griffith, you are in fact correct. COVID has unfortunately delayed the process. However, we are in the final stages of review of the DIF Nexus study. It is currently with the Desert Valley Builders Association, which is a common practice that we do with our user fee and DIF studies. So they're reviewing it, providing their feedback, at which point we will be able to take it forward to the appropriate bodies for review and approval.
Okay, thank you for answering that. I also know that the subject of litigation was brought up, which I hadn't intended, but if I could get some clarification, I know that there has been litigation regarding this item, and if the city attorney would enlighten us a little bit.
Sure. Basically, there's been 2 items of litigation that we have had in the court system, specifically with respect to development impact fees. With respect to the latter one that Mr. Asaro stated, the court did not reach the ultimate question, which was, is this condition of approval valid or not valid? The court stated that Coachella was very late in actually filing an action, and so did not ultimately make that determination. With respect to the first litigation, the tentative ruling was a little bit more, which became the ruling, was more robust in its decision, but we do not have a specific complete determination from a court with respect to the condition of approval. That said, with respect to both items of litigation, which are actually also included as a little bit in the resolution, the city, in my opinion, has pretty much won both lawsuits. So we'll see where all of this goes. But those 2 items of litigation were the ruling, I should say, was in favor of the city, both of them. So we know that we just heard, obviously as well, from Lenny Asaro, that pretty much regardless of what the city of the planning commission, that he will obviously take it up again to the city council and then litigate depending on what the city council does and what the planning commission does this evening.
Okay, thank you. And I note that there is, believe it or not, there is a third option on the agenda, which does not state what Mr. Asaro said, but it does says provide direction as the planning commission otherwise finds. I don't know if it would, that could be pretty much almost anything as long as we have something to back it up. Is that correct?
So on appeals, what is before the commission this evening is obviously a resolution to uphold the director's decision with findings, and then a resolution to deny or not uphold, overturn the director's decision with findings. Again, everything is subject to the planning commission's discretion. As a general rule, we will always put, if there's something else that the planning commission, deems appropriate. In this matter, of course, though, it's really whether or not the planning commission finds to uphold the director's decision or overturn the director's decision. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay. And I had another thought that went through my head and it's gone already. And that was that, just for clarification. So this was basically an administrative development permit. Typically in the past, these all came through us. And then I know that we created these administrative development permits as well as administrative use permits. So they are made at the community development director level. And then that is why this is before us today and never came originally, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions of staff? Any discussion on any of this?
Excuse me, Chairman Griffin, are you referring to as anybody else, the commission or the general public, or who are you referring to when you make that?
Well, I'm referring to the commissioners. We closed the public hearing, so I'm referring to the body of the commission.
I think we need to discuss our options. I think we need to discuss them thoroughly, and we need to make a decision unless we have any other options outside of the ones that are presented, because it is in front of us right now within the scope of what we do. I still have my option and how I think we need to proceed forward, but I'm only one commissioner. So I think we need to discuss this.
Okay, and Commissioner Meyerhoffen, did you have something you wanted to add or discuss, or?
There's two sides to the story. And this commission, with the exception of perhaps you, Commissioner Griffin, being a formal council member, is the one who really, you're the one who really has been following along with this. I've only had 3 days to look into this. And this is an ongoing thing here for a number of years. It's true, the city has taken a long time to get these development fees put in place. So, I'm not sure what has taken place, what will happen in the future, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Endell, do you have anything?
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted. I don't have any questions at this point.
Commissioner Grant, would you like to add something, or would you like me to talk a little bit?
My thoughts are still where they were initially and originally. The only things that I have would be what's already been presented in front of us with the annexation, with the diff fees and other things like that. But I don't think it is my place to get involved with any more conversation in regards to that as a commissioner.
Okay, thank you. Down to me. Okay. I know that this has come before us in the past. Yes, I am aware that the Nexus study has been delayed, and we've dealt with this twice. It's been litigated twice. It will probably be litigated again until we do get that Nexus study. I don't think we have to wait 3 years since it is in front of DVBA, and I'm hopeful that it will come out very soon. I did want to say that in the appeal, I noticed there was a comment regarding the city not having passed the general plan or not having an updated general plan. And I wanted to point out that that is in fact false. The general plan was updated in 2020. And that is actually in a couple paragraphs on the page 43. I have paragraph 3 and throughout paragraph 4. I also know that the conditions of approval for the Coachella specific plan, condition 12 included that the applicant developer shall pay any fees, and it listed impact fees as well as other fees that may apply. I think while one could argue that the degree of impact may not be determined without a Nexus report, I think it's a little disingenuous to say that there is no impact or no proof of impact. Anytime you have any kind of development, any kind of building, you have any vehicles with ingress and egress, you obviously have impact, evidenced by the fact that you have right by the property, you have that light that will one day be in operation. And that's not there because there's no impact and there's no Nexus report that said, hey, it's going to happen. It's just a fact that the more people come and go, the more impact you're going to have. So I don't think you can say we can't prove there's going to be impact. But I do think without the report, it's difficult to assess that. And I think that's why it's my understanding in the past, it was that the fees will be assessed once that report is completed and approved. Having said that, I see no reason from my perspective, I would be hard pressed to accept an appeal or to impose conditions that may prove financially disadvantageous to the city. And so that's my thinking. I don't know what everybody else is thinking, but I am certainly willing to entertain a motion on either of the two options.
Here. Please excuse me. I don't know if you can see, but the applicant's attorney's hand is raised.
We are not in a public hearing right now, so.
Do we need to allow him to speak though for that, just so we can hear? May we open the public hearing back up so we can?
I am willing to do that. I'm not going to debate, but I'm willing to hear his feedback. So I will open the public hearing for that purpose. Mr. Asaro.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Grant. Thank you, Chairman Griffith. I just only wanted to just make 2 points. Number one is it's noted that the updated plan has been approved, but the basis for imposing diffs, it has to be predicated on an updated Nexus study. And the other point is that there have been three issues regarding development impact fees. The first incident that was mentioned, it was not mentioned that the city returned a couple $100,000 or more in development impact fees that were paid by Coachella and imposed as a requirement in order to get a development to get a permit. And I won't agree with it, but the city will say that they offered to pay the money a day or two before we filed the complaint. We won't quibble about that, so I'll give that to the city. But the fact that it required that it pay development impact fee for several months and then realizing that it was going to face a complaint, return $200,000 plus. It could be $300,000, but I don't want to misspeak, but I know it was at least $200,000. They returned that money to the developer. So, which is the reason why we propose this third way. And that's the only 2 points, and I appreciate you giving me the time to just correct and make those 2 factual points to you. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Asaro. While it's open, I see that Ms. Benetel has her hand up.
I'll make this quick, I promise. I just would like to pose a question, I guess, to the city attorney. Considering our third proposal, which literally just states the plain letter of the law, does that not allow the city of Desert Hot Springs to retain its rights to collect any development impact fees that may apply to our property should the Nexus report show that? Does that verbiage not actually specifically retain the city's right to do so?
Thank you. And I will close the public hearing.
Hold on, I have a question for the applicant.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing.
How were your development impact fees that you paid and they returned the money? How did you come to that amount of money if there are no guidelines as how much you are supposed to pay?
If I may respond to Chairman Griffith?
Yes.
Chairman, Mayor Hofen, I apologize if I'm misstating your name. I'm sorry, Commissioner Mayor Hofen. Yeah. Coachillan did not determine the amount of development impact fees to be paid.
Right.
The city told Coachillan the amount to pay, and they based it on development impact fee calculations that were based on the 2008 study.
Excuse me, the Riverside did before it was annexed.
There were no, they based it on the City of Desert Hot Springs Nexus study. So they took the city's Nexus study and the development impact fee calculations that were based on that, and they then imposed that amount on Coachillan, even though Coachillan was not part of the city at the time that the study was done, or that the fees were the fee calculation was ascertained. So it was the city who imposed it and came up with the calculation based on a city that was different at the time, 2008, not considering the 2010 annexation. I hope that answers your question.
I believe so. 2008, it was Riverside County. I guess it's basically we're saying here it's just something that the city put together and said this is what you owed.
No, there was not a development impact fee that was applicable to this property by way of Riverside. When this particular property was annexed with other properties in 2010, but in 2000, just prior to it being annexed, the 2008 Nexus study was in place, and the development impact fee calculations that were in place based on that Desert Hot Springs Nexus study was the basis for determining development impact fees. So then once the property that was in the 2010 annexation area was annexed into the city, the calculations that existed for what the city looked like in 2008 were just taken and applied, and that's how they came up with the development impact fee for this property. And therein lies what the problem is, because those fees were based on what the property looked like, what the city looked like in 2008, not what it looked like in 2010, or not what it looks like now.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Soro.
I'm kind of confused on that one because 2008, we weren't a city yet where you're at, and 2010, we became a city.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I want to make sure that, of course, the applicant has time to speak. Obviously, they obviously need their due process. But when the chair closes the public hearing, maybe I could shed a little bit of light on this issue.
Yes. So let's close the public hearing, and I think if there's any questions regarding that, the diff fees and the 2008 study, we'll let the city attorney address them for the moment. Okay.
So if I may, Chair, members of the commission, in 2008, the city did their Nexus study. In 2010, the property was annexed. Obviously, the city recognizes this, and that is the exact reason, I believe, that the city has actually crafted the condition the way that it has. So with that, the condition, recognizes that the Nexus study still needs to be done. I think that I don't think that there's anybody, disputing that. The city's obviously in the process, and hopefully at the tail end of the Nexus study report, as we heard from Ms. Wilms. So that is probably, I'm thinking, one of the reasons for the condition, the way that it's worded. So I just wanted to be clear that in 2008 was the last time the city formally updated their diff Nexus fee study, and we are in the process of doing so once again to make sure that we capture all of the land that was annexed in the 2010 the I-10 annexation area.
My next question then, Jennifer, is that 2008 study was the study that was sent to Riverside County Board of Directors in order to annex the area? That was part of that study?
That was the 2008 was a development impact fee Nexus study that the city performed.
Well, you guys will get this all straightened out. I don't have any other questions now. Thank you.
I have a question
Go ahead.
for the city attorney, if you don't mind, Chair. Let me try to ask this question. How often, because this is something that's normal and standard with that all cities perform in order to ascertain their diff fees. So the question would be, how often do most cities complete a nexus study?
I don't have an answer for you, and the reason why is because cities often rely on different triggers to, possibly update their development impact fees. I don't know that what it would be. I can't even give you a guess as to how often cities will generally update their fees. It is a large undertaking, I will tell you that, as we are currently going through that process. It's a very large undertaking. So I cannot imagine that it's something that happens often. I wish I had a better answer for you, and I don't.
If I may, I think it's also important to note too that there were a lot of things taking place in the city between 2008 when the initial Nexus study was done and where we're at today, which have obviously delayed this update. So after the annexation, the city did go through some serious financial difficulties. This is also a long and arduous undertaking, but it is an expensive undertaking. So while the city was sorting through some of the financial issues that it was going with, it wasn't necessarily in a position to undertake that large expense. So thankfully, we're in a position now where we're able to do it. And as mentioned earlier, we're in the final stages of doing that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one question for the city. Is there even an inkling of a date when it will be completed? When you expect that the Nexus will be completed? Can we say October or December or something like that?
Commissioner Nindell, I would love to give you a date. I hesitate to do so because last year we said we had hoped that it would be done in the fall. So I unfortunately am not comfortable going on record with a date. What I can tell you is that it is in the hands of the Desert Valley Builders Association. And that truly is the last step in our process before we bring it forward to the various boards and commissions and council for review and approval. But I unfortunately I don't have a date to give you. It could be 2 more weeks. It could be another 2 months. I just don't know. But we are working with them directly. And actually, our Assistant City Manager, Daniel Porras, may be able to comment on some of his more recent interaction with the Desert Valley Builders Association on this specific topic.
Yeah, just to give a little more insight, we have been a couple of rounds with Desert Valley Builder Association. This is the final round, or what we call the second round that we've discussed it. The first round took about a month, so I expect this next one to take about a month as well before we receive any comments from them. At that point, we would proceed forward if everything looks good.
And I would also like to note, when they provide comments back to the city, we then generally will go back to our consultant and work through some of those comments and answer those questions and get clarification. So it's not just the straight, shot back and forth. So as Danny mentioned, maybe another month before we get their comments, then we might spend 2 weeks going back and forth with the consultant, provide them with updates. So that's kind of the process that we're shifting through, and unfortunately it is not this expedited process.
Just one last question. Why was this action brought to this meeting rather than 6 months ago or 6 months from now?
So the developer did have an item, a development permit that they wanted to move forward. And so as part of, and this was an administrative approval that didn't need to go before the Planning Commission, the city does have a standard set of conditions, this condition being one that is now added to the projects on the Coachella site per previous action that was taken at a council meeting. So we did approve that development permit. When they appealed, we do have, per the municipal code, have to take it through the appeal process. And as the municipal code stands now, the Planning Commission is that governing body to hear this appeal. So the project wasn't before 6 months ago. We're just taking it through due process at this point, following the steps of the appeal.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, may I interrupt? And Commissioner Grant, I might be getting to, I think, some of the issues that you may have had. I just wanted to make it abundantly clear that this is kind of a strange appeal in as much as we're really talking about development impact fees, and normally DIFs are something that obviously go to the city council. But that said, I wanted to make it very clear that pursuant to the municipal code, it's 17.104.090, the first sentence reads, any determination or action taken by the director may only be appealed to the commission. Then the next sentence, it says that obviously the commission's decision can then be appealed to the city council. So I just want to make it very, very clear that this is the appropriate body to hear the appeal, although it's kind of a strange topic for the Planning Commission in general terms. So Ms. Grant, I hope that, Commissioner Grant, I hope that does give you some more comfort. This is something pursuant to the municipal code.
Thank you. But my question, and Chair, if you don't mind, please excuse me. If we uphold or overturn as a body, I'm asking, and this is going to be my question that I will still stick with. Do we have not just the overturn, not just the uphold, not just the option from Mr. Asaro, and I hope I'm saying that right because I can't see his name right now, or can I move forward with another motion outside of those three options?
It really would depend on what the motion is. The municipal code, obviously there is the item before you tonight is what do you do with the underlying decision, right? And so for the most part, there is you overturn the underlying decision or you uphold the underlying decision. We put in, obviously, in terms of appeals, if maybe there's something different, some other findings that need to be made, something like that. But basically, the item before you tonight is to uphold or to overturn. If there is a third option, obviously we could hear about that through the Planning Commission, but that is not something I did not come up with. I don't know if staff has come up with a third option.
If Commissioner Grant's through, I have one more question.
Sure.
So we're voting to either uphold the directors. A no vote would be to turn down the director's appeal.
It depends on the motion. So we would make a motion either to uphold the community development director's determination to conditionally approve this permit, or we would approve it with modified conditions of approval, which would in effect be turning down his decision.
Thank you.
Any other questions, discussion, clarifications?
You know, I want to say this because it's important that I say this. I've been looking forward to this project. That's really important for me. I'd like to see this be resolved. However it's resolved, but I have to do and vote in the interest of our city and our community and what legislation has put in place. So, Chair, I'm turning it back over to you.
You want to give me a motion?
My motion was the initial motion that I started with, which would be going to the other body, but that's not something I'm at liberty to do right now.
Okay. Does anybody have a motion either to uphold the original approval or not? So I will go ahead and make a motion since no one seemed willing. I move that resolution, the Planning Commission of the City of Desert Hot Springs uphold the Community Development Director's determination to conditionally approve development permit number 21-11 with minor modification to conditions of approval numbers 11 and 58. Does anybody want to second that?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Can I get a vote, please?
Commissioner Grant?
Abstain.
Commissioner Meyerhoffen?
Abstain.
Commissioner Nindell?
Yes.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
So with that, it's a failed motion. So we're back to the table. We're back just to the status quo. So if go ahead, Commissioner Grant.
Do we have the ability with the permission to wait for this Nexus study on this table right now? I'm just asking. Is it possible?
Is the question to continue the appeal until the Nexus study is completed?
Or because we don't have because the motions have failed, this won't go to council as is now. There's not a way to, I mean, the only thing that there's a couple things that we could do. Number one, if the commission wanted to continue the appeal, the hearing on the appeal, it absolutely could do so until there is a Nexus study that is completed. That is something that the commission can do if it so desires. The other thing is obviously, Mr. Asaro, with your client present, that right now it's a failed motion, and the other thing, if it would be okay with the client to and obviously it was kind of the will of the commission at the beginning to forego the actual decision of the planning commission and kick it up to the city council because of the failed motion. So with that, though, I will go ahead and kick it back to the planning commission because I do see that there may be some inclination to continue the appeal hearing, which it could do. I'm open for a continuance, and I'll make the motion to continue this for a later date, for the said time after the completion of the Nexus study.
Before I...
Unless nobody has any other questions, please excuse me, Chair.
I have a question. I see the applicant's hand up. I don't know if the chairman will open up the public hearing again or not.
I will do so in a moment. Okay. Go ahead with your question.
Let me ask the question first then. If we vote no on this, will the applicant be able to continue their project?
Absolutely. Both ways, the applicant can in fact continue the project. In both resolutions, the actual underlying project is approved, or at least contemplates the approval.
I see some disagreement there, so I'll wait.
That's exactly what the resolution says. Both resolutions, the project is approved either way. It's just one way uphold the director's decision to include as written the condition of approval with respect to the development impact fees.
Okay, I'm going to, I appreciate that. I'm going to wait until until Chairman Griffin opens up the public hearing again.
Okay, so I'm going to do this again. I'm going to open the public hearing, but honestly, I am not going to continue and do back and forth for the rest of the night. So I'm going to open the public hearing, so I'll hear what you have to say, and then let's get down and make a decision, okay? So go ahead, Mr. Sorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. The only reason I raised my hand was because there were new topics that were raised, and I'm sorry, I clicked the wrong button. And so one is, I don't believe that this matter can be continued in perpetuity or for a year or so, because there's a due process issue with regards to the right to have a decision that's made. So I don't think it can go for however long the Nexus study takes to get done. The second thing is that it's kind of important to understand this challenge only applies until a Nexus study is done for anything in the future. So we can only assert this challenge for matters and approvals that are approved, permits that are issued like this, up until the time the Nexus study is approved. So this isn't an issue as if development impact fees somehow just go away forever and ever. That's never been our contention. That's never been our position. Our position has been there's no basis for development impact fees at this time because there's been no determination of need. There's no determination of a nexus. So it only applies on a case-by-case until or if the Nexus study is ever the updated Nexus study is completed. So it would only apply to this particular matter, and then if another matter were to come up a year from now or 6 months from now, and there's still no Nexus study, well then we'd still be in the same position, and then for that particular matter, this condition would not be in there. And again, we're only proposing, I want to make it clear, we're proposing the third way that just says the Mitigation Fee Act applies, the city has rights, and the developer has rights. And then when the Nexus study is completed, we can then, both sides can revisit the issue then as to whether or not the Nexus study is legally valid and correct. And if it is, well then that's what we'll control going forward. So we're not proposing something that is one-sided. We're proposing something that is objective because we don't have an updated Nexus study. And we're not blaming anybody for it, but it's certainly not the property owner's responsibility or fault that it's not done. But it is not done. And it is a financial issue that applies, an unknown financial issue if it exists at all. That's the only point I wanted to make. So I think it was important to understand the context, Commissioner Griffith, and I wanted to make sure that everybody didn't understand it meant DIFS goes away forever and for everybody. That's not the position. That's not what we have asserted or have ever asserted. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Thank you. No, I think that Ms. Beneteau also has her hand up, so let's let her speak.
I'll wait.
You can proceed with your question. I wasn't going to say anything Lenny didn't already say, so feel free to ask your question.
And is your question towards them, or towards city staff or city attorney?
My question?
Yeah.
We haven't closed the public hearing, so my question is for Mr. Nassaro. Hope I pronounced that right. So
you did. Thank you.
Would you, because this commission has only had a couple days to look into this, would you, and I understand you don't want it to go a year, I don't understand how you could even get loans and stuff not knowing what the end cost is going to be. So I understand that financial part, but would you be willing to postpone this until the January of 2022, which should give everybody enough time to get this Nexus study done? And what I'm asking for is, you know the reasons, we'd like to continue this until January 2022. Would you be willing to agree with that?
Commissioner, I would have to defer to my client on that. I can only say that that would be a challenge and very difficult considering the fact that I believe the initial challenge was back in 2019 or 2020. And the thing is that we've been told it was going to be updated. And again, we're not blaming anybody. We get what was told. It's a little difficult to agree to that. And in the deference also to Ms. Wilms, she can't, and I applaud her for that, in good faith, can't even say that that's an estimated time frame, because obviously, there's perhaps things she doesn't control, but that would be difficult to agree to. And I think that the city probably, I'm not going to speak for the city, but I mean, I don't even think that they're in a position to offer that. And I appreciate your effort to try to be conciliatory, which is what we've tried to do by proposing this third way. I just don't think that we can do that. And actually, the last point is we would not be able to proceed with this if you deny it and if we file a complaint in court. Because the last time that we did this, we were told by the city's attorneys that they wouldn't do anything with respect to the prior permit on a different matter because the matter was still in court. So it's not accurate. I mean, unless the city's changed their position, then that would be fine. But that wasn't the city's position the last time that we went through this. Their position was because we were in court, no action would be taken. So that's the only thing we can go by.
As I'm understanding it, then you're saying that the continuance on this for a few months is not going to allow you to continue with your project?
Mr. Chairman,
without having to go to court?
Let me close the public hearing because.
Do you mind if then I say a few words?
Oh, well, if I may, there's a lot of things that are being misconstrued. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus the Planning Commission directly on the two resolutions. The two resolutions, both of them, either way the Planning Commission goes, would actually approve the project. However, if the Planning Commission decides to uphold the resolution, adopt the resolution upholding the director's decision, the project is approved with the condition of approval as written. If the Planning Commission decides to overturn the director's decision, then the project is still approved without the diff condition. So I wanted to make that very clear. You could see it clearly in the record, and clearly that is what is written in the resolution. I don't want the Planning Commission to become confused by adversary counsel.
Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing so we can continue this discussion and get on with this, okay?
May I, Chair? I think in all fairness at this particular point that we need to sit and discuss this amongst ourselves once you close this until we have a resolution on which way, or make a motion to, like our city attorney said, to either uphold or overturn. We need to hash this out right here and right now in a discussion.
I agree 100%. So I have closed the public hearing. We're going to go ahead and discuss this. I'm going to start off with one thing, which is, and I've said this in the past, I am not a fan of continuances, especially when it comes to items with developments. Many cases, these people have investors, or they have loans, or they have other financial instruments. And every day that there's a delay, it costs money. And so I think asking for a continuance until January, as much as I understand the reasoning, I don't think it's reasonable for anybody. I think what we need to do is sit and take a look at this and say, was the decision that was made by the community development director the right one, or was it not the right one? It's a very, very simple question. It may seem difficult, but it's not. And it may be that it's not a decision that you feel comfortable making because you think it should be somewhat at a higher level. But it is in front of us, and it is our responsibility to make this decision. And like I said, it's either, do you agree with the development director's decision or do you not? And that's it. You know where I stand. I made the motion because I do agree. I will let you talk it out again.
Hey, I'd like to go first.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We were just told that you mentioned that the delay in the project's going to cost this and that. And the continuance is still going to allow this applicant and their investors to continue with the project. They're not going to walk away from this project with a continuance. So therefore, I think that a continuance is the only way to resolve this right now.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I think there may have been a little bit of misunderstanding with Commissioner Meyerhoffen's comment. What I stated was that both resolutions, the resolution to uphold the director's decision, obviously would allow the project to move forward. It's approval of the project with the director's condition of approval in there. The other way is the resolution to overturn the director's decision, which still would uphold the project, but just it would omit the development impact fee condition of approval.
If I may just chime in really quickly, and Jennifer, please correct me if I'm wrong, but there's been a lot of discussion about the possibility of continuing this until the DIF study is completed. And truth be told, doing that, continuing this item until the DIF Nexus study is completed would almost render this condition obsolete, because this condition is in place until the DIF Nexus study is completed. And so while I understand the intent behind wanting to do that, it's my observation and suggestion that it doesn't achieve the end goal here with the developer. I don't want to speak for the developer, but with the developer or the item before you, because this condition is only in place until that Nexus study is completed. I hope that that also helps to provide some clarification.
And can I also add, as far as continuances, when we have people before us who have filed an appeal, they are given a strict time limit in which they can file that appeal. And so I think that there's a sense of urgency that we expect them to have, and I think that we owe it to them to have the same sense of urgency. I don't think it's fair to say to any appellant that you have X number of days to file an appeal, and then we take it as, well, we can wait a few months until we make a decision. I just don't, that's just my thought process on that. I think it's our job to do it as expeditiously as possible.
And in that case, Chair, if you don't mind, I would agree with you, but given what we're facing and what we're looking at, I'm sorry that I think that we need to consider all possible and available options, and we need to do our due diligence on behalf of the city, on behalf of the applicant, and do our very best to basically discuss this out until we decide that we're going to either uphold, overturn, or move forward with another decision. So, as it is on the table and how we have it, what is any other commissioner have any other thoughts? Because I've had several with the 3 days since we've had this agenda and the appeal, and
I think it comes down to our two choices. So I'm willing to entertain a motion.
I'll make the same motion that was made earlier, that resolution of the Planning Commission, the City of Desert Hot Springs, upholding the Community Development Director's determination.
Anybody else like to second that? I will second. Can I get a vote?
Commissioner Grant?
Yeah,
Commissioner Meyerhoffen?
Abstain.
Commissioner Nindell?
Aye.
Chairman Griffith?
Aye.
Motion passes with Commissioner Meyerhoffen abstaining.
Thank you, everybody. That concludes our hearings for tonight. At this time, is there any public comments on anything that has not been on the agenda tonight?
No, there's not.
All right. Does anybody have anything important that they wish to add on the commission?
Any commissioner comments? Is that what you're asking?
Well, it says Chair and Planning Commission member reports, so yes, hopefully they're relevant.
That's not what I'm hearing. Anyways, I asked for a study session. If we'd had that study session, we would understand what was going on with Hacienda. We would understand what was going on with this problem now with the development impact fees. So I still think a study session is very valuable to this commission to find out what's really going on, where we're at. Worrying about trash cans that have lids on them is just still relevant to all that's going on. I've also asked the commission to go by our industrial area where the cultivators are and take a look at what's going on over there. And that hasn't happened. We're approving projects, and I understand that the cultivators are going by what the guidelines are of the city. With the amount of square footage that is being approved along Little Morongo Road and the parking, the inside parking on the developments isn't going to help the flow of traffic on Little Morongo Road when they have to have that extra help come in. We have a situation over there up at Two Bunch Palms now where they're parking on the street and there's nowhere else for them to park. The city's going to have a problem there. There's congestion already starting. Now, when the other building that you can see is being already put together, they come in. I went by there today. It's already down to where that new building is going. So when they get done, and if their harvest turns out to be at the same time and their extra help comes in, what are we going to do? Emergency services, and there's other businesses down there that is going to affect the churches, and there's the disposal company down there. And if we put that same congestion with the on-street parking out onto Morongo Road with no sidewalks, no crosswalks, traffic moving at 55 miles an hour, somebody's going to get injured. And it doesn't make the city look as if though we're not concerned about where the workers coming from outside the city are going to park in their safety. The next thing is, Chairman Griffin, I would really appreciate, because I do have a hearing problem, that you would close the meeting according to Rosenberg's Rules of Order and follow Rosenberg's Rules of Order in the future. So I hope we can end up, Commissioner Grant and we've spoken on the phone, and we're just two commissioners, so we can't talk to any of the rest of you until we come to a meeting. We can't put anything on the agenda, but yet these problems still exist, and I've been speaking about them for since I've been a commissioner, basically. We have to look at the future growth of the community. And as far as the developers go, I was curious about what the developers are really asking for, where they're at. So I did an in-depth study of real estate development, and from the area, just say the area that the city annexed in 2010. If they don't know what the fees are, how do they go to the bank? How do they get their finances in place? They need to know what those fees are. And if we have a free-for-all, basically, you can put as many gas stations as you like, or liquor stores, as many as you can get your licenses for from your liquor licenses for. That makes it hard for the developers also. There's no guarantee of anything for the developers when they come with the way we have it. And I'm not going to take the time to go into detail right now, but I really feel these issues need to be addressed by this commission. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyerhoffen. Anybody else?
Well, Chair, if I may, for this particular agenda, and there's been a few before, I really would like for us to follow what is written with Robert's rules, also with basically how for us to be in compliance as commissioners, actually look at findings, because there has been several instances where our findings are not written accurately. And it seems like we're in a rush job, and having you from our last meeting in July say that you were ready to leave at a certain amount of time. I don't know if you were joking or not, but that was a concern for me, and how we look in front of the community. Also, additionally, how we're perceived as a city, as a commission, in working with our community, with our developers, with business owners, that we need to just basically do our job in reading that agenda, looking at the findings, going over those conditions of approval, and basically for tonight with the development impact fees. If an applicant is not aware of why we have development impact fees, and even though this is not our for us to even discuss, but I think that it's a concern if we do not write the findings correctly, then that's going to be an issue. A lot of the time the findings are not listed. It's saying one thing for us as commissioners, and I've read it, and I don't want to say that my issue is with mainly, I guess want to say the commission, but it could be with staff sometimes, that we need to basically go back and have them explain and write out what exactly in detail are their findings. I mean, in detail, because they're not detailed enough for me. So I just need to get that off my chest for right now in regards to what's going on and taking place on our commission.
May I chime in for just a brief moment and make a suggestion? So we do offer this, and we encourage this. We set up standing meetings with our commissioners so that we can go over agenda items in advance and answer questions. And we do have most members attend these meetings, but I would strongly encourage our commissioners to attend these meetings with staff so we can go over the agenda items, provide some historical background, and answer any questions that you all may have. And so there's a lot of clarity ahead of time. And since we're having some discussions about resources and tools and communication, I think it would be important to put that on the table and remind everybody that we do offer that, and we would encourage attendance. I think it's very important and valuable, and that's what we're here for.
Anybody else?
I would like to respond to that, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
The staff meetings are great, but if the proper information and the proper time was allotted for us to read over this stuff, it would be a shorter meeting. I know that I've been guilty of not making some of those meetings because in the past I've asked questions and I haven't gotten the answers, not even at the meeting. And the questions that I have are the same questions that the general public should be listening to, and listening to not only the commissioners' questions, but the response from the city staff so that they understand what's going on. So I agree, there's some things that we should be discussing with the city staff before we come to the meeting, but the majority of it can be taken care of during the meeting. Thank you.
Oh, and additionally, please excuse me, these agendas items that have been twofold that I'm looking at, some of them need to really be separated, because when you're going to make a motion, like we've had these two earlier, we've had another one, I think it was the JADU, that one I believe should have been separated. Those are just all things that I know maybe in the interest of time that they're being combined, but this should not continue.
And I have one more question. Why did Commissioner Duffel leave the meeting tonight?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this is just for commissioner comments. This is not discussion items. Again, we're kind of falling a little bit outside of the Brown Act.
May I ask something then before you? May I withdraw my vote? Is it too late to withdraw my vote? I want to withdraw my vote.
It's too late to withdraw. The public hearing has already closed. I just, with respect to these kinds of discussions, if we wanted to put an agenda item on, that would be fantastic. We just have to be careful with the Brown Act. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a stickler with the Brown Act.
I'm sorry, Jennifer. I am not asking for a discussion. I'm asking for an explanation as why our commissioner had to go.
Jennifer, I'm not quite sure what's going on, what I walked back into.
Glad you're still listening, Commissioner Duffel. Vice Chair Duffel.
Erhoffen, I was requested to come back. I actually recused myself from the last public hearing that was heard tonight, just prior to the bathroom break. So I was not involved in the last public hearing that took place. I came back for the commissioner comments and walked into what I can only describe as quite a mess, if I may. I'm going to forego my commissioner comments this evening now that I've answered your question. And Mr. Chair, I'd like to hand it back over to you.
I don't believe you're getting there. Like, it's not up for discussion. I don't believe that's an answer. Thank you for commenting.
Thank you. I have nothing. Mr. Nindo? Okay. I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Y'all have a good night.
Yeah. And thank you for using, that is not the way Rosenberg's rules of order say, but the meeting's over. Maybe the city attorney can get with you and explain it to you. Thank you.